Here's a question I see a lot of men wrestling with, usually quietly, usually with a little bit of shame behind it. I'm in my early 30s and still living at home. Is that a deal breaker? I'm going to go deeper than surface level takes that you might have heard online because this is not just about your mailing address. Today's episode is about self-trust, timing, identity, modern expectations, and the space between where you are and where you think you should be. You're listening to Stripped, Drop Your Patterns. Let's get into it. Throw out the rules, forget the cliches. This isn't about the perfect profile or the perfect date. It's about real connection. It's time to strip away the masks, shed the stories, and drop those old patterns that no longer serve you. Tired of dating advice that doesn't fit? So are we. Welcome to Stripped, Drop Your Patterns, where conscious dating isn't about following a script. It's about embracing your whole self and attracting the kind of love that sets your soul on fire. I'm Rachel J., the connection coach and your host. Let's get real. All right, whenever a man asks me, is living at home a deal breaker? He's not actually asking about women. What he's asking is, does my current life situation make me unlovable? Am I already starting off behind? Are women going to judge me before they even meet me? Or does this mean I'm failing as a man? And if that's what's alive in you, I want you to feel your feet on the ground for a moment, because this isn't about worthiness. It's about alignment and context. It's about the narrative that you've created around your situation, not just the situation itself. So here's the truth that a lot of men are not being told clearly. Women's standards today are just simply higher. Women are more independent, more self-sufficient than any other time in history. And that's not women being picky. That's simply women no longer needing to choose from a place of survival. Because remember, marriage used to be a function, a transaction, a business arrangement, more than it was a romantic partnership. Because if we go way, way back, marriage was about forming alliances between nations, securing land, consolidating power, and essentially making sure that the family line continued. Attraction wasn't the point. Survival was. And even in more recent centuries, when emotions started to matter a little bit more, compatibility was still measured through a very narrow lens of traditional gender roles that we have talked about on the pod previously. A man was evaluated on his earning potential and ability to provide, while a woman was valued for her lineage, maybe her dowry, and definitely her attractiveness, specifically when it comes to childbearing. So none of these factors had anything to do with the actual people involved. It was all about what each person represented for the future of the family line. And I know somewhere Darwin is raising an eyebrow, but that's a whole other rabbit hole, so let's keep it simple and stay on track today. The point is, women are no longer partnering up for survival. And here are just a few quick data points to ground this for you. Women now earn 90% of what men earn in major cities. They hold more bachelor degrees than men in the US. Nearly half of single women own their homes before the age of 35, and that is a number that has doubled in the last decade. And emotionally, women have spent 15 or more years in the self-development space, whereas men are just starting to enter it in meaningful numbers. So when a woman asks, does he have his own place? She's not being superficial. She's evaluating. Are we in the same chapter of life? Are we building at the same pace? Can I trust that he's building something, even if he's not there yet? So it's not so much about perfection as it is trajectory that she's looking for. Now, I want you to hear this clearly, okay? Living with your parents is not automatically some giant red flag. It's not some moral failure or a character flaw or a universal turnoff, but it does communicate something even before you open your mouth. Because for a lot of women, a man in his 30s living at home suggests, and that's the key word, suggests, before you get upset with me, a delayed entry into adulthood. It can give off man-child vibes or read as he hasn't fully launched. And for anybody who remembers the Matthew McConaughey and Sarah Jessica Parker movie, Failure to Launch, you know what I'm talking about here. So sometimes it even signals emotional enmeshment, not because you're weak, but because she just doesn't know yet whether you can hold your own center outside of your family system. And to a woman who's been supporting herself, perhaps for years, who is emotionally and financially self-reliant, a man who hasn't left the nest can look like he's still paused on the runway. But, and this is where nuance matters, it doesn't have to mean any of that. Just like in the movie when we find out the real reason that McConaughey still lives at home. Some men live at home because they're playing the long game financially, some because they're taking care of aging parents, some because they're rebuilding after a divorce or a layoff or a health scare, something that reorganized their entire world, and some because they're living in a city where rent feels like a punishment for wanting a life. Those circumstances do not make you less of a man, but how you hold and communicate those circumstances, that is what matters and what she's responding to. Because the difference between deal breaker and completely understandable is usually one thing. Are you in forward motion or are you hiding? And this is probably no real shocker, or maybe it is. Women can feel the difference instantly. They can feel when a man is rooted in building something versus when he's shrinking and hoping no one notices. And that distinction, my friend, is everything. Okay, so story time. When I was single, I dated plenty of men whose living situations were, we'll just say, less than ideal, while I was in my own gorgeous studio apartment in downtown Brooklyn. And remember, in big cities like New York City, it's incredibly common for single adults to live at home or with roommates. It's not unusual, and it's not automatically a red flag. There was one particular man that I dated off and on for a couple of years who I absolutely adored, who to this day, I still don't know where he actually stayed when he wasn't with me. It seemed to either be at his cousin's place or at the music studio. Honestly, I never really knew, and I didn't push. Ultimately, what bothered me was not that he didn't have an address, but that he wasn't rooted here. His actions and lack of forward motion repeatedly communicated to me that he was not invested in making New York his home, nor was he invested in a stable future with me. And over time, this is what became the deal breaker. This man, who I cared for deeply, had a lot of wounds from his past that were preventing him from a life he claimed to desire. And that goes without saying, a lack of willingness to work through those wounds from his past. From that relationship forward, as I began to get really clear on what was important to me and what I valued, which is all work that I now do with my clients, I realized that it was important to me that the man I dated have his own place, not because of status or because I wanted the option to move in, because remember, I had my own beautiful apartment in a prime location. So I was in no need of a real estate relationship, as we call them here. But because for me, having your own place, even if it's a tiny walk up, an hour and a half from me, or a hand-me-down family apartment stuck somewhere in 1974, communicated to me a person who was at least planning to stick around, someone who had planted roots here. And I admit, the man who lived in his family's time capsule apartment had his own relationship wounds and hangups, keeping him stuck in other ways. But even that was a step closer to what I was looking for, which I realized had more to do with finding an emotionally mature partner who had worked through his past than these external markers that the wounds manifested as. So let's slow this down a bit, because this is where so many men get tripped up. You might tell yourself, it's fine, this is temporary, it doesn't define me. And sure, maybe that's true in your mind, but in your body, there's likely a whole other story playing out. Maybe there's a subtle collapse in your chest when someone casually asks where you live. Maybe you feel that little tightening in your throat when the conversation starts drifting toward lifestyle, independence, or goals. Maybe you notice a tiny flinch inside when a woman shares something about her apartment, her routines, her space, because you don't have that for yourself right now. And maybe, without realizing it, you start overperforming, trying to impress or compensate, essentially trying to make up for something that you've already decided is quote unquote not enough. So this is the part I want you to understand. You're not sweating the fact that you live at home. You're sweating the meaning that you've attached to it. And that is what a woman feels. She's not responding to your address. She's responding to the hesitation in your voice, the apology in your posture, and the way that you brace for judgment before she's even formed an opinion. Women don't need you to be finished, polished, or independent in every direction. What they need is to feel that you are in your life, participating, and not waiting for it to start. So I'm going to give you a reframe that I want you to really let drop into your nervous system. I'm not behind. I'm becoming the man I actually want to be. Now, this isn't a cute affirmation. I mean, it is, sure, but it's not just a cute affirmation. It's a posture. Notice how it feels in your body when you say that to yourself versus the old stories. It's a way that your body organizes itself when you believe in your own trajectory. And maybe your personal hang-up isn't that you live at home, but that you feel behind in other areas. Maybe your education or your career or even your relationship experience. Whatever your unique situation, say this to yourself and really notice how it feels in your system. I'm not behind. I'm becoming the man I actually want to be. And when a man lives from that place, something opens up. He becomes present instead of performative. He responds instead of reacts. He leads rather than avoids. He tells the truth instead of trying to manage impressions. The bottom line, he feels and appears more confident and grounded, and therefore attractive. Dating becomes less like a test and more like connection again. And women can feel when a man is proud of the direction he's moving in, even if he's not at the finish line yet. What turns them off is never actually the circumstance itself. What turns them off is when a man disowns his circumstance, makes excuses, apologizes for it, or hides behind it. Own where you are, but also own where you are going. That's the part that matters. Okay, so here is the direct answer to the opening question without any sugarcoating. For some women, yes, a man in his 30s living at home is a deal breaker. And it's not because they're shallow or gold diggers, though you will encounter some of those too, let's be honest. And it's also not because they're unrealistic. It's because they don't want to step into a dynamic where they feel like they're becoming the emotionally mature one, the responsible one, the adult in the room. They want partnership, not parenthood, particularly women who are in that same sort of age bracket going for a man in their 30s. But, and this is equally true, for a lot of women, it stops being a deal breaker the moment they feel your clarity, your direction, your ownership of your life, your intention paired with the action to back it up, your emotional leadership and your forward motion. Women don't need you to have a lease in your name. They need to feel your momentum. They need to feel that you're moving through this stage and not settling into it. So before we wrap, I want you to land back in your body for a moment. Put a hand somewhere that feels steady, maybe on your chest, your ribs, your thigh. Take a slow breath. In and out. And just quietly say to yourself, not as a performance, but as a truth that you're allowing yourself to consider, I'm not behind. I'm becoming the man I actually want to be. I am allowed to be in progress. Notice that shift. It might be subtle. It might be a softening or a loosening, or maybe even a sense of relief that you didn't expect. Let that be here. Let it be valid. You are not late. You are in motion. So, my friends, if this episode landed for you, if you felt that mix of relief, discomfort, recognition, and maybe even a spark of possibility, that is your nervous system telling you something, that you are ready to move into a new chapter of your life, and you don't have to do it alone. I am building something for men like you who are smart, self-led, done with shame, and ready to rebuild from solid ground. If you want to be the first to know when it opens up, make sure that you're on my email list. The link is in the show notes. I want you to take one more breath. And remember, your timeline is not a verdict. Your situation is not your identity. And you are allowed to be a work in progress without apologizing for it. I'll see you next time.